Ms. Dominowski. Ms. Dominowski, are you still there? Okay, well, while we are on the Budget Committee, I do have a comment to make about the Budget Committee. The budget, as we know, it is the board's job to adopt the budget and to be fully informed about the budget. There are a lot of changes that are coming with the budget, especially around the blueprint. So for instance, if we were to ask any board member, how much money will it cost to implement the blueprint as intended in Baltimore County Public Schools? We don't know that answer yet. And we can go down the list of some things that as a board we could really build our capacity on so that we can make more informed governance decisions. And it is so for this reason that I move that effective immediately we dissolve the budget committee, and in place of that we commit to having standing agenda items about the budget on the open session meetings so that not just the board can be informed and we can be involved, but also the public can see and really be involved in the budget process. And this way, when the budget book comes out in January or February, we would know what's in it because we would have all had a part in the development of it. And so I move to dissolve the Budget Committee effective immediately. Is there a second?
Please excuse me for being rude. Well, however, I object to consideration of the question. According to Robert's rules, standing committees have a continuing existence and function.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, parliamentary point of order. Mr. McMillion's objection does not require a second.
I didn't ask for a second on the objection. There was a motion on the floor. So let's go to our parliamentarian, Ms. Devasty Jones, or if Ms. Howie is here.
Just one moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, yes. So there is a motion on the floor, and
his objection requires a vote, and it supersedes the motion on the floor.
So thank you for that, Ms. Hind. We are awaiting on the parliamentarian.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just for my clarification, what is on the table for consideration? What type of motion or?
And so the motion that is on the table right now is to dissolve the Budget Committee effective immediately. And in replace of that, we will have budget discussions during open session so that we are fully transparent with the public and that the board can be fully informed about all elements of the budget, and it's not isolated to a single committee.
Correct, but now we're trying to, what are we
considering
now?
Right, so Mr. McMillion made an objection, and so right now we are awaiting the parliamentarian to see which one has precedence, because there was a motion on the floor.
So Mr. McMillan's objection will take precedence over your current motion. It does not require a second. It does require 2/3 against for consideration.
Okay, so we have an objection on the floor. And so may I have a roll call vote on if you are for the vote is if they are in favor of the objection?
Correct. Yes, it has to be a 2/3 to vote against your motion. Does that make sense? Against the main motion. There's an objection on the floor by Mr. McMillan, which takes precedent currently. But now the vote by the board will be there has to be 2/3 against the consideration of the objection.
Madam Chair, could Mr.
I know,
McMillan
I'm
restate
sorry.
his objection?
Wait,
Can I-
give me 1 second. Let's have the parliamentarian. Go
So
ahead.
basically, essentially that, not using these terms instead.
Okay.
So essentially, in order for the objection currently on the floor to continue, the board needs to vote either for or against the objection. But in order for it to not stand, there has to be 2/3 of the board to vote against the current objection. And then if that's the case, then the main motion, we go back to the main motion, which then requires a second.
Okay, so we are taking a vote right now on who's in favor of the objection, or who's against,
Who's in favor
who's
of
in
the
favor of the objections. Okay, and it doesn't require a second, so may I have a roll call vote on who's in favor of the objection? Mr. McMillan, could you restate of your objection?
I object to consideration of the question.
It wasn't a question, though. It was a motion.
Motion, then. I object to consideration of the motion.
Okay. Ms. Stileski.
Okay, so I have one question of clarification, and then just a thought if we want to postpone this to our next board meeting, because this was sort of sprung up on us. If I had known that this was going to happen, I would have done my due diligence in terms of research and discussion and looking into the purpose of the committee, because I am not on that committee.
Right. So we have an objection on the floor that we have to vote on.
Okay, so then my point of clarification on the objection is if we vote yes, that means we agree with the objection.
So
Is
if you
that
vote
correct?
yes, then yes, you agree with the objection.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. May I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Ms. Dominowski? Ms. Dominowski? Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
No.
Ms. Lichter?
No.
Ms. Chikakalo?
No.
Ms. Stileski?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Thank you. Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer?
No. So the motion does.
7? I'm sorry, favor is 7.
Favor 7. Okay. So we will go back to the original motion, which,
Madam Chair,
with 2/3, so we need 8. Okay. So we do not move forward then with that motion. So there will be a new budget committee. There will be new members selected for the budget committee, and we will bring
Madam
back the
Chair.
purpose and the measures.
Madam Chair,
Right.
Point of
Right.
order.
So the objection stands. We needed 8 people.
the objection,
And
the
so we
objection
need-
fails.
Objection failed.
Oh, no,
The
the
objection
objection.
fails.
Wait, we needed 8, right?
Right, we needed 8 to confirm the objection. Right. We
Yes.
didn't get that.
Madam Chair, I move to postpone the question indefinitely.
And so no, there's a motion on the floor.
And
Ms. Henn, please hold where the parliamentarian
postpone.
is conferring.
No, the objection didn't pass.
The
We haven't-
objection didn't.
We haven't voted on the motion yet.
Correct. And I move to postpone the question indefinitely.
I'm not being funny.
Okay, so and so Ms. Devasty Jones, so could you clarify, does the objection stand? All right.
If I just can have a moment, I have to.
Yep.
I'm trying to calculate with the numbers as to the
Yes.
fact that we don't have the numbers.
Right.
I'm having the same problem you had. Or when I log in. It's the whole it's the same problem.
I don't know what's going on here. I think. I don't know. Oh, that's why he sent me some messages. He sent me some messages about the budget committee. Look, I didn't know what he was talking about. I could show them to you. Oh my God. Did you know about this? Did you know about this? That's why you sent me the information.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Did you know about this?
So as a result of the fact that there was not 2/3 against the consideration of for the objection of the motion, we're back to where we started. There is a request for a motion on the floor that has not been seconded by the board. And so at this time, that's where we're back to. So we're back where we started when you began.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to dissolve the budget committee. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I move to postpone the question indefinitely.
And so I'll defer to the parliamentarian again.
Wait a minute, it's over.
Right back at you.
What's going on? What's you seeing?
And so,
Robin, excuse me, what are you reading?
and so you can't interrupt. If it's my understanding that to kill a main motion that it can't be interrupted. Am I reading this correctly?
At this point, in order to make this postponement that Ms. Henn is asking, there still has to be, we need to get to the second, which that has not yet been done.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My hand has been raised. I would appreciate acknowledgement if this motion receives a second.
And so we had a motion on the table initially. And so Mr. Vassie Jones, which motion takes precedent?
Your
original
current motion still, you've moved for to proceed in a certain manner. That still needs to be seconded.
Okay, so is there a second?
Second, Harvey.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Henn.
Yes, I move to postpone the question indefinitely.
And so there's a motion on the table that has been seconded. And so I'll once again defer to the parliamentarian to ensure that we are doing this correctly.
Second to move the question indefinitely.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry, was that a second over the, okay.
So we know that there was a second for the original motion. So there's a second now to postpone the motion indefinitely. So, Ms. Dominowski. I'm sorry. Yeah. And so it's a motion, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Ms. Zaleski.
Just again, I guess I feel like this was unexpected. I would really like to hear from members of the Budget Committee about the effectiveness of the committee in order to make the best decision.
Mm-hmm. Madam Chair,
Ms. Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start by saying I appreciate the board's focus on our fiscal responsibility in terms of the budget. As a member of the board who is not on the Budget Committee, I would also appreciate the information that's being imparted on the Budget currently in the Budget Committee being imparted in real time, all heard at the same time in this forum so that the public can hear it as well. The Budget Committee is not a decision-making committee. It is an information imparting and gathering committee, and as such, it is my assessment that the full board having that information in this setting is the best way for us to all hear the budget information, the best use of BCPS resources during the budget season, before and after, and the best way for the public at large to hear the same information that we're hearing as a board. So it is not an indictment or a negative assessment of the Budget Committee as it has been, but it is an acknowledgement that the information that's being imparted to the Budget Committee is so important that it needs to be heard at a wider level before the full board.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. So we'll go to Ms. Henn and then Mr. McMillian and then Ms. Chika-Kalua.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the previous question.
What previous question?
There's a motion on the floor to postpone the question indefinitely. I move that question. Requires a 2/3 vote, and we vote immediately.
And so there's a second, and there's a discussion, and so we will go to the Mr. McMillian.
I'm moving the previous question. Requires an immediate vote and passes with 2/3 of a vote. So parliamentary point of order. That is proper
And
procedure.
so we'll refer to the parliamentarian. And so a second is needed.
Second, Zaleski.
Yes, Ms. Frimpong.
We're talking about moving the question, and it talks about interruption. For moving the previous question, there is you cannot interrupt.
Madam Chair, I did not interrupt. I was acknowledged. Thank you.
So that's all that the interrupt means, even though we're currently discussing. Okay, so we have to go straight to the vote. Okay.
And so the motion on the floor then. So restate the motion, Ms. Henn.
So I am moving the previous question, and that motion was to postpone the question indefinitely.
Okay, so may I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frimpong?
No.
Ms. Lichter?
No.
Ms. Chika-Kalua?
No.
Ms. Zaleski?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy,
No.
Mr. McMillian,
Yes.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer.
No.
Favor is 4.
So it doesn't move. So we will go back to the original motion to dissolve the budget committee that has been seconded. And now we are opening it up for a discussion. So I will go to our student board member.
Okay, so I wanted to just give my input objectively, so please correct me if I misspeak in any way during this. But after carefully reviewing meetings and proceedings of the Budget Committee, not only from this past year, but also from previous year, I have definitely observed certain inefficiencies in how these meetings are conducted. And so while the committees are undoubtedly positive, the outcomes have not met the level of efficiency that we require as a board. And I do think, especially in the fiscal period when Dr. Rogers proposes her budget, that there's a strong lack of transparency within the Board of Education and with the proceedings that happen within the Budget Committee. And so it is important to acknowledge that the budget's role is to only make recommendations. And so the option of decision making doesn't fall under the peer review of the Budget Committee's responsibilities. And so in doing so, I do agree with the fact of dissolving the Budget Committee because, as Ms. Harvey stated, I think it's better for us to transparently address everything within the board. I think the budget of all things, curriculum, with the curriculum committee, there are multiple reports that come to the Board of Education. But with how imperative the budget is for the success of BCPS students, I think the best course of action would be to dissolve the Budget Committee and provide the opportunity for board members to see everything, not simply at face value and with certain details, not necessarily stripped away, because I do respect the dedication that Budget Committee members as well as the Budget Committee chair has made. But so that way every board member receives every single detail and things aren't simply streamlined, because I think streamlining the budget is the responsibilities of every board member and with the role of the superintendent, not specific to certain budget members.
Thank you for that. Mr. McMillian.
Okay. I talk fast when I get excited, and I'm excited. Slide 4 of the chair report said, at times it is necessary to establish standing or special committees of the board to review a specific topic and to report and to make recommendations back to the board. The Budget Committee has expanded my knowledge base tremendously. We don't have, there's a hole in the strategy that to bring it back to the board, and that is the committee gives the opportunity for a deeper dive into different topics that we can bring back. We can still talk about it as a group, but it gives the parents to the community. Now, I feel a real connection to the 19,000 people that voted for me and everybody else in Baltimore County, a fiscal responsibility. We're talking $2 billion, and people talk about it like it's monopoly money at times. And I feel a responsibility. The more I know, the more the people in my communities is going to know. So I want the deeper dive into the topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillian. And that just proves my point. I think that every board member should have that deeper dive into the topics for the people that elected them, for those of us who were appointed. We all should have that same deep knowledge bank to pull from and to communicate with our constituents with when it comes to the budget.
Okay, you use my words, and what I'm going to do is it's appearance of if you dissolve this, then it gives the appearance to the communities that we don't value the transparency when it comes to the monetary issues. We can do both. We can keep the committee, we can dive deep into these topics, we can come back and we can talk about it as a group, and so everybody's pleased. The community that watches these meetings get their information, the people that focus on the budget committee gets their information. There doesn't need to be a dissolve. It needs to work together to share information, the maximum information we can to everybody around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillian. Ms. Dominowski.
Yes, thank you. I'll try to be brief. Ms. Booker-Dwyer, you've been a part of the Budget Committee since you've been a member of this board, and you tasked us with putting together the measures of effectiveness and the purpose. You did not supply any feedback into that project that you gave us. You voted against it, but you did not give us any feedback. There was nothing that you gave us as far as how we could make this this committee better. The point of the budget committee is, as you said, to advise, to tell the community about what's going on. It is the most important part of this budget committee. The equity committee is not tasked with, voting on, doing anything, bringing forth any, policy changes or contracts. The budget committee is going over probably the most money given to the county, and the county budget is gone to the budget committee. It goes to the education committee, and therefore the budget committee is the most important committee of the Baltimore County Board of Education. I'm frankly very upset that it has come to this point, that you couldn't have come forward in a regular scheduled budget committee and
So, Ms. Dominowski, I'm just staying with parliamentary procedures. I feel like you're getting personal, and we're making a business case here. So, what is your business case?
My business case is that you're dissolving this committee on your personal.
Ms. Dominowski, it's not. It's a motion. Ms. Dominowski, what is the business case?
The business case, Ms. Booker-Dwyer, is that you have been a part of the budget committee since it's.
Ms. Dominowski, take me out of it, and what is the business case for your argument?
I guess I've made my case, and you're making it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dominowski. Ms. Henn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This isn't a business case, it's a legal case. The education article of the Annotated Code of Maryland empowers the board to prepare the budget. It's referenced in the board handbook on page 13, number 20. The board is empowered to legally to prepare the budget. And before the creation of the budget committee, I made the motion to create it. It took 3 times to get it passed, but we persevered and got it passed because we believed in the importance of it. Before that happened, there was no insight, no visibility, no transparency to the board or the public in the preparation of the annual budget each year before the board was presented with the superintendent's budget. And that is not how our laws are designed to work. This is the board's budget. It should be prepared according to the board's vision and goals for the school system, not the other way around, not in the 9th hour when it's too late to make changes to the budget, when it may not necessarily reflect the board's vision and priorities for the school system. Now, several board members have attended MABE's budget training on how this should happen. The chair being one, several other board members being others who have gone through MABE's budget training on how this process should work. And one of the recommendations from that training is that boards establish a budget committee. Now, several have done so, several others have not. Baltimore County being the exception, and we are leading the way in establishing this. I'm not talking about status quo, and that was the comment from the chair's report this evening. This is as far from status quo as it gets. This is best practice and what we should be doing. It establishes a greater level of transparency for the public, a greater level of transparency and insight for the board. As Mr. McMillian said, it's been an invaluable resource for training to board members and the public on the budget process. And committee meetings are open to everyone, public and board members included. There is no exclusion of anyone from participating in committee meetings. We welcome all. We welcome discussions on topics that are presented in the meetings. We have encouraged it, especially around budget season and right before our work sessions. We welcome the participation. So if anything, we should be encouraging board members to engage in committee meetings. It sounds like our new student member has watched the committee meetings, which is more than I can say for the rest of the board members. How many have watched a committee meeting? I mean, we should be encouraging this, not disbanding the very committee that was formed to fulfill our statutory obligation to prepare the budget, which is what we should be doing in our role of board governance. It's exactly what we should be doing. And I'm sickened that we are even considering this motion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henn. Ms. Frimpong?
Thank you. So I did attend the May budget in my first year, thank you, the training. And I'm actually pulling up some of the data from it in the slides. And so it does talk about what is the development process and that the school system has its own timeline for budget development and approval. The superintendent develops and presents the budget to the BOE. So that is one of the bullet points that is there, and that comes from MAVE. But I guess just pulling back even from that as I listen to the different arguments for and against, when we talk about this budget committee and what its roles and responsibilities are, it really is the responsibility of each of us as a board member. It's not specific to a board member just because they're on a committee. And so if the thought is that, well, in order for us to be able to vote and have information about the budget, we have to watch the committee meetings or be a part of the committees, that's taking away from our role as board members. That's an elementary part of what our responsibilities are. And so I do think the information needs to be spread so that all of us have the information, insight, and the details so that we are able to vote intelligently on the budget. We can ask the questions that need to be asked and not limit it to just again, specific members of the committee, because all of us cannot participate in the committee, because if we do, we have an issue with quorum. So again, if we want that information, we want all of us to be informed and be able to make informed decisions. We all need to have access and get access to that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lichter?
The reason that I'm voting for your motion is why everybody is talking about against it. The passion that I'm hearing, the importance I'm hearing about the work that committee does makes me feel like, what have I missed? How have I voted? How have I provided input if I have not gotten that same information? So all of this information that you're saying is being given at this meeting for one of our most important responsibilities, then we all must hear it. If the motion was to dissolve the committee, period, then I would have a problem with that. But it wasn't. It was to dissolve the committee and to bring those types of reports and that information to the full board. I keep hearing the board, the board, the board. I'm not hearing people say the committee has that responsibility. It's not the committee's responsibility to make the decisions about the budget. It is the full board. Therefore, the full board should hear the depth of information that you are saying is taking place. And yes, I've listened to the meetings also, so I've gotten it, but not everyone. And the point about having quorum, we cannot all participate in those meetings. But if the board needs to do this, then the full board needs to be privy to all that information. So that is why I'm supporting the motion.
Okay, so may I have a roll call vote? Oh, Mr.
No, you may not. Point of order. If there's more people with hands raised.
Wait,
Call it for the motion.
wait. So I wanted. I'm checking with our parliamentarian because she is keeping time on that 2-minute clock for everyone.
Right, and I don't know. I don't know whose hands are raised, but yes, you can still take comments from the different individuals.
Okay, so we'll do Ms. Dulesky, Mr. Young, Ms. Harvey. Okay.
Thank you. And I agree with all of those that have spoken about the board being fully informed about the budget. I think that's really important. My only concern is if this were an agenda item for this evening, I would have done my personal due diligence about other aspects of the budget committee, the overall entirety of what the budget committee does, which I don't feel that I'm informed about that. So I just am not feeling prepared to vote to dissolve it, while I do feel that it's absolutely essential that every board member is updated regularly during the budget process. I just feel that I am not in a position to vote to dissolve it. I am certainly willing to do my due diligence and possibly postpone the vote so that we can properly decide if the committee should continue, but I just don't feel educated enough to do that at this point. Thank you.
Ms. Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to say that I understand that people feel strongly about this one way or another, but we have a responsibility to maintain decorum and civility in this setting. That is the expectation we set for ourselves. That is the example we should be giving to the community. I think there's one point that should be emphasized. Ms. Frimpong made it, Ms. Lichter underscored it, and it is that even when we listen to the budget committee, we cannot participate. We cannot ask clarifying questions. We cannot ask follow-up questions. We cannot participate in the conversation because if we all listen to the budget committee and participate, then we are conducting a meeting and in violation of the Open Meetings Act. That is very substantive to this discussion. In order for the full board to participate, we have to do it in a setting that does not violate the Open Meetings Act, that gives us all the opportunity to do just what's being done on the committee, ask questions, have conversations, and request follow-up. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
I just want to move the question.
Okay. So if we move the question, then let's vote. May I have a roll call vote on the...
There's still people with hands raised. Point of order. There's still people with hands raised.
And so Mr. Young has moved the question. So that immediately stops conversation and starts a vote. So may I have a roll call vote to dissolve the budget? Yes, go. And so I will go to the parliamentary. I will go to the parliamentarian, Ms. Dominowski. And so.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure we're on the right motion.
Yes. And so do we have a second on Mr. Young's movement of the question?
I never heard his question.
Yeah, you got to mute her. And so is there a second to move the previous question?
Second, Lichter.
May I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Dominowski?
No.
Ms. Hen?
No.
Ms. Frimpong?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Ms. Chikakelu?
Yes.
Ms. Dulesky?
No.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
No.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer?
Yes, motion passes. Or motion carries.
Point of order, 2/3 vote is needed. Do we have 2/3 of a vote? I don't believe we do.
No, we do not.
So the
Favor
motion
is 7.
fails.
So the debate continues. Okay.
We're going to stay here all night for this.
And so
Point of order.
so
your comments are
wait,
not
so the debate
necessary.
continues. So let's go back to
I'm going to catch me an Uber. I'm going.
no, the motion. No, that wasn't the motion. That failed.
That wasn't even voted on yet because and you took this question, more debate, this question.
And I have to tell that I'm leaving in front of these people.
While we're ready to do the postponement, then vote on that first before we go back to the
Okay, so we are going to vote. So repeat again. What is the motion on the floor? Because it was my understanding that it was the original motion that was on the floor.
The motion on the floor is postponement of the motion indefinitely, which was made after your main motion was.
Okay. And there was a second on that.
Yes, Ms. Dominowski.
So Ms. Dominowski seconded. We voted on this already.
I did not second anything.
Twice. Ms. Dominowski said she did not second. She seconded the postponement. I'm just saying what
She just said she did not second a thing.
she did.
Mr. Young put a motion to move the question indefinitely. It failed. Now we go back to the original motion, which you put on to dissolve the
Ms.
budget
Dominowski,
committee.
that is not the motion now, so we have been corrected by our parliamentarian. The motion on the floor that you seconded is to postpone the motion indefinitely. So may I have a roll call vote on that? So voting yes, saying that this motion will be postponed indefinitely. No means that it
Which
will not be
motion?
postponed indefinitely.
Which
so
motion?
it is.
No, go back. 'cause
Right, so the
we just
motion
vote-
is to postpone indefinitely the motion to dissolve the. No. Yes, okay. The motion to dissolve the budget committee to postpone it indefinitely. So that is the motion on the floor that has been seconded. May I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Harvey,
No.
Mr. Young,
No.
Ms. Dominowski,
Yes.
Ms. Hen,
Yes.
Ms. Frempong,
Yes.
Ms. Lichter,
No.
Ms. Chicacalo,
No.
Ms. Dulesky,
Yes.
Dr. Savoy,
No.
Mr. McMillian,
Yes.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer.
No. Oh,
Favor
wait,
is 5.
wait, Ms. Frempong?
I forgot what I was voting for.
Come on.
Right. So if you vote yes, then you are postponing it indefinitely. If you vote no, then you are
of order,
not
are you allowed to do
postponing
this?
it indefinitely.
Point of order. She already voted.
She can change her vote.
The favor is
No,
5.
she can.
And so, Ms. Frempong, does your vote stand? What did? Oh well, okay, it failed. All right, so that is not. So we are now back to the original motion to dissolve the budget committee effective immediately, to replace that with having items during the open meeting session about the budget. So that is the motion on the floor. That motion was seconded. So, yes. And so now we are on, and we had discussion. So now we are on a roll call vote.
Ms. Harvey,
No, point of
Yes.
order, more discussion.
Can you restate?
Point of order, we're not out of
So
time
we are
for
voting to
discussion.
dissolve the budget
But we're
committee.
not out of
And
time
Ms.
for
Dominowski,
discussion.
I'm going to have to ask you to please follow parliamentary procedures and wait to be
I'm
recognized.
asking for
And I'm going to
point of
ask
order on discussion.
Ms.
I'm asking
Ms.
for
Gover,
point
could
of
you
order on
please mute
discussion.
Ms.
No, I'm asking
Dominowski
for point of
so
order
that
on discussion. Okay.
so that we are
Point of order
adhering to
Point of
so that
order
we
on
are
discussion.
adhering to the
Point of
parliamentary
order on
parliamentary
discussion.
procedures. We were in the middle of a roll call vote.
Oh, but point of order on discussion.
Right, Ms. Gover, please continue.
Madam Chair,
And so we will allow our parliamentarian to be the parliamentarian. So we appreciate the comments. The parliamentarian will be responsible for correcting anything that needs to be corrected.
When will that be?
Ms. Dominowski, you have not been recognized.
Madam Chair,
So we
may I
have
be
a motion on
recognized?
the
This
floor.
is
So
Ms.
we have a
Hen.
motion on the floor. It's been seconded. We were in the middle of a roll call vote. We have discussed that motion.
Madam Chair, I wish to amend the motion on the
Okay,
floor.
so we are still discussing then. So where is everyone with their time limit for 2 minutes?
Every time it starts new, I start new. So honestly, when it
She
comes to
doesn't know,
this, I
okay.
don't know where we are. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay. Mr. McMillian?
The committee allows an hour and a half a month to jump in these topics. We are very selective in these meetings on how much in-depth material we get into. So if you dissolve the committee and you say that we're going to talk about it, we're not going to talk about it. It's not going to be the depth that it's going to take place in that committee. So you can have both. You have the committee, and you bring the information back, and people that are interested can watch. They bring the information back to the full board, and then we discuss it as a group on that level. You don't have to get rid of one for the other. You can have both, and they can both serve their purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillian. Ms. Lichter, is your hand up? No. Okay. Ms.
Madam
Zaleski,
Chair,
is your
my
hand
hand is
still
still
up? Is your hand? Go ahead, Ms. Zaleski.
Thank you. I think Mr. McMillian makes a great point, my hand was only up just to make sure that the discussion continued, because that seemed like the proper protocol. So that was just to defend that. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hinn.
Thank you. I move to amend the motion on the floor to insert and to add 1 hour to one meeting monthly for budget topics.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. McMillian seconds. Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote?
No.
So on the floor, just so everyone is clear, everyone is, Ms. Dominowski, you have not been recognized. There's a new motion on the floor. So the motion on the floor is to amend the motion to add an hour to every board meeting to discuss the budget.
My hand's still raised.
Monthly. One meeting. Yes.
My hand's still raised.
May I have a roll call vote?
Point of order.
Wait.
My hand is still raised.
Right. Go ahead, Ms. Dominowski.
This whole discussion is defending our motion to have the budget committee. We cannot have this during a full board meeting. There's a lot of discussion that happens. It's recorded. Anybody can go back and look at it, just like the contracts committee, just like the curriculum committee, just like the legislative committee, just like the equity committee.
So, Ms. Dominowski, are you speaking to the motion? Are you speaking to the motion?
You're not letting me talk.
May I have a roll call vote?
You can't
Ms. Harvey?
unmute me.
No.
Wait, can we clarify?
You can't mute me.
Yeah.
To add 1 hour.
The motion on the floor is to add an hour to a board meeting to discuss the topic, to discuss the budget.
With the dissolving of the committee or
Yes,
separate?
with dissolving the committee.
You keep muting me and you won't let me
An hour
finish.
to the board meeting, yes. Right. Once a month. Yes. So it's an amendment to the motion, so we are
Ms.
voting
Harvey?
on the amended motion.
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Ms. Dominowski?
Abstain.
Ms. Hen?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
She's in the restroom.
Ms. Lichter?
No.
Ms. Chikakalu?
No.
Ms. Zaleski?
No.
Dr. Savoy? No. Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer?
No. The motion does not carry. So we are back to the original motion that we originally started with, that has been seconded. Not
Madam
to
Chair, may I
postpone
comment on the
it.
original motion? This is Ms. Hen.
We're back on the original motion
May
to
I comment
dissolve the
briefly?
budget committee and in place of that to add time to include budget discussions as part of the open session board agenda. So that is where we are.
Madam Chair,
The
may I
motion
comment?
has been made, it has been seconded, we've had plenty of discussion on it.
I would like to comment on the motion
Point
that
of
just
order.
failed, please. Point of personal privilege.
And so I see that there are hands raised. So yes, Ms. Hen.
Thank you. The motion that I just made tried to address the desires of seemingly the majority of the board that want to discuss or seemingly want to discuss budget topics as a full board. However, that doesn't seem to be the case. The motion failed. if we don't want a budget committee and we don't want to discuss budget topics as a full board, when do we propose discussing the budget? We want to disband the budget committee altogether, and we don't want to discuss it as a full board in a full board meeting. So where does that leave us? I'm against disbanding the budget committee, and the board does not seem to want to support discussing it as a board. So you've all proven my point of not wanting to be engaged in the process, not wanting to fulfill our statutory obligation and do our due diligence and role of governance in being involved in the budget process at all. So I don't really know where that leaves us other than failing to do our jobs, which is what we will do if we disband this budget committee. So I really hope the majority of you reconsider your vote on this main motion and maintain the budget committee, which is doing outstanding work, and engage with the committee. We will share information with you if I am reappointed to the committee, along with my fellow committee members who are doing outstanding work, and we will share that information with the full board, because it does not seem to be the will of the board to discuss this as a full board in committee. And it requires at least an hour, as Mr. McMillian said, a month to do so. So we're willing to do the heavy lifting and the work which other committees do on this board. Most of the work that the board does is done in committee. We're willing to do that and assist the board with that and share the information with the board. Let us do our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, you had...
Thank you, Madam Chair. In many ways, the tone and tenor of this discussion is saddening to me. Putting that aside, I would say that the members of this board are intelligent enough, the superintendent is competent enough to determine with the chair, as meetings are by policy planned, to determine how much time, whether it be one meeting or both meetings, whether it be the entirety of the meeting or an hour or 15 minutes, based on the input and the questions and the requests from the board, how budget content is presented in this setting. It is a mischaracterization of the will of I will speak for myself, of my will, that I have no interest in this. What I don't have interest in is it proceeding the way it is currently formulated, because I cannot participate in the discussion in the way it is currently formulated. I take exception to the assertion that I am not doing my due diligence and performing my elected and sworn duty as a member of this board, and I would ask that we move to question on the motion to dissolve the committee and present the information during our standard open sessions.
Is there a second?
Second, Lichter.
May I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Dominowski?
Point of order, I'm not understanding the question. I'm not understanding the motion. Is it different than the motion that we're already voting on?
The motion is to dissolve the budget committee. Oh, it's to move the question. The motion is to move the question.
Point of order, haven't we had a duplicate motion to call the question by Mr. Young?
Not for this motion. Roll call
Point of order,
vote.
point of order, can you explain exactly what we're voting on?
You're voting to move the question, Ms. Dominowski.
To move the question to what? Move what question? We've had a lot of motions on this. I would like to know exactly what I'm voting on before I vote on it.
To move the question.
What question?
On the original motion.
Can you repeat that, please?
It is
The whole
to,
question,
it
the
is-
whole motion.
right, it is to move the original motion is to dissolve the budget committee and to have budget discussions during open session. Ms. Harvey moved
so what are
the
we-
question. So this is the same procedure and the same thing that has been going on. So I'm not clear why it's unclear for you now. So we're with the roll call vote. So go ahead, Ms.
Serious? You didn't know what we were voting on before, so I think I'm asking a very pertinent question. We're moving.
The question
what
has been answered.
No, it hasn't. Because everybody.
Ms.
I've been muted again, by the way.
Ms. Dominowski, your vote?
I don't know what I'm voting on.
Yes.
Can the parliamentarian please explain what move to question means from Ms. Dominowski so that she can be clear on what she is voting for?
Thank you, Ms. Harvey.
Ms. Harvey has moved the question on the vote, which is on the motion that was currently on the floor, which was the motion that was originally made by Chair Booker-Dwyer to dissolve the budget committee and to have the board listen to and do all the budget meetings during the open session. So what you're voting on right now is basically moving the question whether or not the board wants to continue with this discussion on this motion or to vote immediately if this motion to move the question passes. So you are up on the roll call vote.
Point of clarity. So if I vote yes, I'm moving to continue the discussion to a later date. I'm not voting to dissolve the committee.
If you vote yes to move the question, you will be moving for the board to make the vote immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dominowski?
No.
Ms. Henn?
No.
Ms. Frimpong?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Ms. Chikakalo?
Yes.
Ms. Dulesky?
Right, this is just moving it to a vote. Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
No.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer?
Yes. Motion carries.
Favor Z.
So now we are voting to dissolve the budget committee and to replace it with having budget discussions during open session. May I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Dominowski?
Absolutely not.
Ms. Henn?
No.
Ms. Frimpong?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Ms. Chikakalo?
Yes.
Ms. Dulesky?
No.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
No.
Ms. Booker-Dwyer?
Yes. Motion carries. So the next item is the update from buildings and contracts. Mr. Young.